All right, we are here in the Wasatch Mountains. The lovely, got a little snowstorm, unexpected, but this is episode number 2 in our serious series. Running the Wasatch 100. And our special guest today is somebody that runs, or should I say spends as much time in the Wasatch Mountains as anybody that I know, and is also a Wasatch 100 veteran, or veteran with a D.
Of a turden?
A veteran. Of Wasatch 100 finisher, Sam Jewkes. And today's episode is on fueling and hydrating electrolyte replacement. So, Sam, right at the start here, can you tell us, looking back at your Wasatch 100 experience, maybe one of your biggest fails, something you really didn't plan on, and then maybe one of your biggest successes.
Okay, so I woke up race day and I went to the 7-Eleven and I got the biggest chocolate donut you could see. I ate that on the drive up along with some oatmeal, because you know, long term, short term, there you go. And it worked really well.
He didn't even know what the topic was today. So
it went really well until about mile 17, but I don't think it was that. It was that tuna I ate.
I hate to butt in, but go Google or look at Sam Jewkes' video on YouTube, Wasatch 100. One of my favorite things, and it tickles me to this day, is him eating that tuna, because when I watched the video for the first time, I started to laugh. And like a minute later in the video, he's blowing chunks everywhere. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that tuna, it went down really well. It came back out really well too.
So you're saying you made a few mistakes with your fueling?
Yeah, early on, yeah.
Early on, okay. But what is something that you absolutely nailed with your race and your training?
I would say the biggest thing I nailed was starting off slow.
Okay.
Like when I got to the first time counter thing, it had me projected for like 38 hours. A lot of my friends were
even
like,
possible?
"Oh my gosh, you're going way too slow." But as soon as I got done with that climb up bear, I was able to just kind of take off a little bit. Still had a lot of energy, didn't waste it on that first climb.
So fueling and finding out what works for you is going to be one of the most important aspects of your race, probably top 2 or 3, even right up there with training. So if you've never run a 100-miler before, this is going to be super important to figure out a few things with this. One, what kind of fueling works for you from an energy perspective. 2, what kind of fuel works for you at mile 10, at mile 20, 50, 80, and maybe you haven't gone those later distances, but there are ways you can figure this stuff out. What kind of fuel works for you in the heat? This is a really important one. So these are things that you need to start working on now, so that when the race day comes, you know exactly what you're going to be using for fuel. For me, my first few Wasatches, I had no idea what I was doing in terms of fueling. I was pretty much show up and whatever is at the aid station and sounds good in the moment is what I took for my fuel. It took me a long time, probably 5 years of, 5 years running ultras and hundreds to realize, hey, why am I feeling sick and nauseated every time I do 100, about mile, 25, 30. And really, the issue I was having is I was putting too much in my stomach. I was putting solid food in, and my body did not like that. And so I'd get nauseous, and it was just something I had to deal with until I figured out what really worked for me. For the last 5 years, 6 years, I've been doing a fueling method that has been absolutely fabulous for me. Fabulous. I've been doing gels and primarily liquid fuel. So Perpetuum, Hammer product, and the ratio, what I do is I do a gel about every 45 minutes, and then a serving of Perpetuum, which is, I think it's 250 calories every 2.5 hours. And I've done about 10 events, either 100 milers or 24 plus hours, races and or adventure running, where this has worked for me and worked phenomenally well. So I've done some of these entire events fueling only on Perpetuum and gels. All right, Sam, from a fueling perspective, what are the things that you have found that work best for you? And specifically at Wasatch or other 100 milers, what works really for you?
For me, I go with peanut butter sandwich, potato chips, Snickers bars, and also like a Lara bar or something. That's usually what I do. It's a little more solid food compared to Scott. A lot more solid food. But that's what works for me. I tried the gels, but I'd get really sick on the gels. I couldn't keep them down.
So from an aid station perspective at Wasatch, for years and years, GU was the primary nutrition sponsor, and that worked extremely well for me because GU's worked very well for me. But in the last few years, they've changed to Gnarly Nutrition, and I don't mind Gnarly, it's good, but there were really very few gels that I saw on the tables, which is what I primarily fuel with. The one thing I don't like about using a nutrition liquid that is at the aid stations is you're not mixing it yourself. So I have found when I've had that a lot of times the mixture is pretty weak and doesn't really give me what I need. So for example, with Gnarly, I believe you get about 100 calories in a 12-ounce serving, but if someone's mixing that at the aid station, you never know what you're really getting. And in a race like this, you need to really know. So I'm not trying to discourage you from taking it, but just know what you're getting, and maybe if you're going to use Gnarly, learn what it tastes like when you do a full serving correctly, and then maybe if it's watered down, so oh, I need to have a little bit more. All right, so the reason that my preference is like a liquid, like a Perpetuum and gels, for me, it's so much easier on my stomach, and I notice that I get the energy boost pretty quick. For me, when I'm eating solid food, it takes a while for my stomach to digest it, and I don't get the energy returns very quick.
Have you tried Skittles?
I have not.
That gets pretty quick energy.
Yeah, I think it'd be a little quicker. My thing with sugar, if I'm going with refined sugar, I typically find that I get a boost, but then it doesn't last quite as long. But that's just me. Maybe I'm not eating enough Skittles. But
Gotta eat the green ones.
hey, didn't M&Ms just ban or just get rid of green M&Ms?
Well, they make you horny.
Well, that's a problem then. Okay. One of the downsides to doing what I'm doing with Perpetuum and gels, well, there's a couple I can think of. When Wasatch stopped using goo is what I primarily train with and really love. I love a couple of their flavors because they're easy on my stomach. That means I have to have enough gels in my drop bags or carry them for the entire race. And then from a Perpetuum point of view, I have to have it in my drop bags and I have to mix it. And so I just have come up with methods on how to do that really work well for me. But it is a little bit of a hassle to have to get into the aid station and mix it. So just things to think about. But if you're gonna use gnarly, they'll have it right there. Just have like maybe a soft flask you're using just with the gnarly product. You come into the aid station, they'll fill it right up and you're good to go. In the summer, when it gets really hot, you're gonna wanna do some longer training runs where you're using the fuel that you've been practicing with. Because one of the things that makes Wasatch so tough is the heat. And we're gonna cover that in another episode, but basically what you can tolerate under normal conditions or without heat may go completely haywire in the heat. Sam?
I don't like heat.
How did you do in the fueling in the heat at Wasatch, other than the tuna?
I had to do a lot of salt tabs.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that also. So salt, how were you before Wasatch? Had you figured out from a salt intake what you needed?
Yeah, I needed about one every 2 hours or so.
So this is just like a standard
Yeah.
Endurolite S-cap salt stick. For me, I usually would do 1 an hour, but in the heat of the day, maybe ratchet that up just a little bit. So, and these are things you're gonna need to work on, because you will need to replace your electrolytes. So my preference on the electrolytes, I like the Hammer Endurolites, just because they have potassium, magnesium, sodium. They're really good. Some of them don't have potassium. I like to just get, take something that you're gonna get as much as you can from as much benefit as you can. So that's the end of this episode. And we will go into a little bit more depth on hydrating and electrolytes when we discuss the section of the course where that's going to be most important, which will be really sessions to Lambs Canyon. Davy Crockett, king of the wild frontier. We should start a band.
Yeah, we can call it I Blame Sam.
Yeah, Sam's Tuna.
Ha!